So my Accord can be pretty unpleasant to drive sometimes because it has one major flaw that happens in two scenarios. It's sticky clutch. So this happens either when I hold the clutch down for a long time, like at a stoplight, or if I roll through the gears at full throttle, when I go to drive normal, the clutch also sticks, and it'll release the clutch like that far off of the floor, and it's just miserable, and you stall the car. To fix that, it's one of two possibilities. One is that you need a new pressure plate and probably clutch, but two, which is easier to replace, is this. This is a dismantled slave cylinder. It has a delay valve in it, and a lot of the time it'll get gunked up. I'll take this apart later so you can see it, but for now, we're going to replace the slave cylinder. I'm also replacing the clutch line with one from P2R because if I'm doing this, I might as well not have to bleed the system again later and just replace it all at once. So let's hop into it. We're going to go in from the engine bay with the hood open, and we're going to look for these two 12mm bolts here. We'll also need to take off the line here. This is that 10mm line wrench that you saw. I will leave a link in the description below on where to get these if you don't have a Harbor Freight near you. This is Harbor Freight brand. But pick a set of these up, and then I'm gonna cheat, and I'm using like a long extension to get down to those 12mm bolts. Now I do recommend leaving this bolt in, but take this one out because you'll need it to get this bracket out of the way. You will need to hold this big guy here with a 17mm, and then you'll have to loosen it with a 10mm line wrench here. So hold this one to 17, loosen with 10. Okay, we got our line off here, and now we'll take out that other bolt here, and then we'll grab our old, crusty, gross slave cylinder and maneuver it out of here somehow. There we go. Before you put your new slave cylinder in, it's noted that you should make sure there's no delay valve in it. If you're fine with that, that's great. I choose to take it out so it operates like a normal vehicle. So there's a snap ring inside the slave cylinder here, and it's kind of a pain to get out. However, you can cut a slit here, and I'm just cutting out my old one, so I'm not being very careful. Please be very careful with this. Use an angle grinder, and I'm just going to cut a slot here so that I can put a screwdriver in and get that snap ring out. And with that apart, everything comes out. This is the clutch delay valve. You can read about it online, but you just want to basically get rid of this and then put your end plate back on. Once you've got the delay valve out, just put the end cap back on there. There's a little ledge there. It's not going to go in too far. Just push in on it and put your snap ring back in. Thankfully, putting them back in is a little easier than taking them out. And here we have our new piece, operating pretty well. The little piston in here was sideways a little bit. It was kind of off at an angle like that. So if that happens, like, you want to be able to kind of freely move the piston in and out. If it's not happening, if it's really hard, it's probably that the piston inside here is like crooked. So get that fixed first, then you can put this in. So the easiest way I saw to do this was to get under the car and set it in here first, which is your fork. And then I kind of lightly placed it up there, and now I can put a bolt from the top. It's much easier that way. I tried to reach from the bottom, but you kind of can't reach the top from the bottom because your radiator hoses are in the way and this stupid bracket that I really don't like. So that's what I did. And now I have hand tightened this, and we need to really actually tighten it. So again, I'm going to hold this with a 17 and this with my 10. And now we can tighten the bolts down. I got the bracket on there. And so our new slave cylinder has been installed, and normally at this point we would bleed it. However, I also have a clutch line for it, so we're gonna do that. Now the clutch line on this car is easily accessed by going underneath. Those two I think I'm gonna need. It's a 10-12 and a 15-17. So we're up under the car. I'll flip you around. Alright, and so this is the line we're going to leave. This is connected to the slave cylinder, which we just changed, which is here. So I'm gonna need to take this off. I'm gonna need to take this clip off, and it should be pretty easy to do. I'm assuming it's a 10 mil. Okay, so it looks like it's gonna come off pretty easy, which which means it's probably not. Once we get this off and the other line off, which is up, as you can see, way up in here, we'll take this off. And in order to do that, we'll need to get these clips off. That's real easy. You just take a flat screwdriver and kind of force them off. So I'm gonna get this disconnected. I'm gonna take this loose and the other one loose, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I have both of these off. Really recommend doing the top one in retrospect, because having this shit dripping in your face is not pleasant. And then this clip here, we're just gonna kind of take off. Let's see if I can grab her while I'm... There we go. And then we don't want that in our control arm, so we're gonna get that out of there. And then I should be able to just kind of hypothetically slip that out of there, let her drip, and then do the other one. All right, well, now that I'm looking at it, so here's my intake. You see that right there? That's my clip. If you don't have a pry bar, then a tire iron might work. There we go. Let's see if we can finagle this thing out of here. Little stubborn. But there is our old clutch line. And now we can put the new one in. If you're doing the P2R clutch line, you'll need 3 different wrenches. You'll need a 10mm line wrench and an 11mm line wrench. For some reason, they did their stuff weird. However, 7/16 is the same as 11mm, so if you can't find an 11mm flare nut wrench or line wrench, a 7/16 will do just fine. And then you'll also need an 18mm wrench, and this will be to kind of hold the big end of the fitting on the end, because a P2R clutch line is 3 pieces, and so it's the actual line itself, and then there's 2 separate fittings that attach to your hard lines and get clipped in. Okay, so the idea here is that you put your thing here, right, and then you put the clip in there, and that's easier said than done, because these clips are a little wily. After you get the main fittings in there, all you got to do is just put the line on. It's easy, it screws in. It's important to note that you do not put Teflon on brake fittings or lines. So don't do that. These are like, they're not going to leak. And then you just tighten the hose on there. Easy and simple. You got to hold the fitting with a 18mm wrench. I don't know why they made it 18 when every other fitting on the car is 17, but whatever. And then after that's done, well, you just got to bleed it. And that's easy, right? Okay, so it turns out that this actually didn't really work worth a damn at all. So we ditched that. All I did was attach the little hose that was on there with a can. Put the can at the bottom, and then you loosen your bleeder. And on this Accord, whenever you push the clutch pedal in, when the bleeder's open, it holds the clutch pedal like down. And so you can push the clutch pedal, come tighten the bleeder, then come in the cab and let the clutch pedal off, and then come loosen the bleeder, and then just repeat that until you have no air in the system. That's how I did it. Well, actually the clutch feels really good. Don't judge me for my Crocs, that's what I wear at home. Okay, and so that was it. Now this only solved one of my 2 problems, and that is when I floor it and roll through the gears, I can then drive normally, and the clutch will behave. However, if I hold the clutch down, the car still does want to stick, you know, the clutch pedal. But it's a lot more consistent. So it does want to stick, but the clutch doesn't release like instantly after I lift it off of the floor. So I think I still need a pressure plate, but this was a massive improvement in drivability in my Accord. So hope you liked the video. I hope it helped you in some way. As usual, you be good while I'm gone. I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Oh, and I will be changing the gear oil too. I'll make that its own video because apparently no one's done it on a 6-cylinder manual. They've all done it on 4 cylinders. It's probably the same, but we're going to find that out.